If Disney World is supposed to be the most magical place on Earth, then why are longtime Disney fans enraged by what's happening in these parks? Find out the truth today on DFB Guide. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Disney World and its fans have been through the ringer in the past few years, right? First, the pandemic shut down the parks, then a bunch of stuff that used to be free became not only not free, but actually super expensive, and some perks haven't returned at all. And we've seen significant changes in park policies that aren't necessarily feeling so magical. So today we're going to talk about these changes, the updates, the policies that are causing such a stink for the world's most popular vacation destination. And because we're DFB and this is what we live for, we're going to talk about how you can plan ahead and around all of these obstacles and still have the vacation of your dreams. That's why you're here. That's why you watch this. That's why we're here. Okay, we're going to start with the crowds. We keep thinking that surely the crowds are going to let up at some point. In 2021, we were like, oh, people will be done with their revenge travel soon. It'll all be cool. Then we got into 2022 and it's like, wait a minute, why isn't it cool? And now it's 2023 and we're still seeing overwhelming crowds. And with a recession looming overhead, potentially, I know we got economists, let me know in the comments if it's coming. Park pass reservations are still required to help control that capacity. Pandemic-inspired revenge travel is fizzling out, but still kind of there, and prices continue to reach well past inflation. So it feels like we've created a recipe that'll lead to fewer crowds. But it feels like maybe things are moving in the direction that on paper it should look like the crowds should be decreasing. Now, I'm currently looking at the wait times in the My Disney Experience app and seeing the Jungle Cruise in an 85-minute wait, Test Track at 75, Flight of Passage at 95, Rise of the Resistance at 185. Now, when I'm recording this, we're kind of right at the tail end of spring break, so it's getting a little better, but it's still pretty wild out there. On top of ride wait times, these continuously massive crowds that we're seeing lead to bottlenecked pathways and packed out restaurants and all around struggle busing when you're just trying to watch the castle projections during Happily Ever After. Even off seasons that we've talked about in the past, like January and February, can still see a rather massive influx of guests. And Disney has strategically placed race weekends on all of the weekends that used to not be that crowded, so now they're crowded. So if everyone is so sick of these crowds to the point that they're throwing their hands up and calling it quits, why haven't we seen relief in the numbers? Well, there are a few reasons. For starters, Disney continues to provide new attractions and experiences, which they release throughout the year, very strategically. Most recently, we saw Tron Light Cycle Run officially open in Magic Kingdom and the return of two popular nighttime spectaculars, Happily Ever After, Epcot Forever. Well, is Epcot Forever popular? I don't know. We got a new one, and Harmonious is going away. And guests are currently hyped for what's to come, like the new Journey of Water immersive walkthrough coming to Epcot later this year that's Moana inspired, and the new Communicore Hall and Plaza, which is going to help centralize Epcot's festivals. The parks also get hit with busy seasons that lots of people don't realize are a thing, like when cheer and band competitions flood the parks, or the Run Disney weekend races are happening, or the Super Bowl champs proclaim that they're going to Disney World, and then there's this huge celebration, which, to be fair, they went to Disneyland this year. But again, those sorts of things sort of pop up all the time. There's no way you can really plan for them unless, like us, you're looking at the specific calendar of the Disney World parks every single day. At the end of the day, Disney is still Disney. It's a vacation that many families can agree on because there's bound to be something for everybody. Even if you're not big on the characters and magic making and rides, Disney finds a way to suck you in anyways. So is there any way to still enjoy your time in the parks even though the crowd levels can be suffocating at the moment? Well, it is possible, and here are a few tips to help you pull it off. First, use your My Disney Experience app. Don't wait until the day before your trip to download it. This is going to be the app where you're going to find the premium Disney Genie Plus and those individual Lightning Lane services. Those help you bypass the major lines in exchange for shorter lines for a price. But it also has several free ways to help you plan around the crowds too. The Attractions and Shows tip board shows you the most current ride wait times, but also the forecasted wait times. Using Expedition Everest for a quick example, if I tap on the ride, it'll lead me to its main page, which not only gives me more details surrounding the ride, including where you can find it, how tall you must be to ride, what the thrill types you should be aware of before you board are, But it also shows a graph of estimated wait times throughout the day, kind of like how on Google, you look and see if that pizza place is super busy on Friday night or not. For today, it looks like wait times are going to drop for this one after 4 p.m. and get to their lowest in the last hour of the day. These forecasts are subject to change, but they can still give you a good idea for how you need to plan out your park visit. So leading up to your trip, every couple of days, check those forecasted wait times. You can look at them if you're not in the parks, and you can get a good vibe for which rides are going to be most popular in the morning, afternoon, and maybe even in the evening. Tip number 2, use surge pricing to your advantage. Ticket prices do fluctuate throughout the year, but they tend to be at their highest when crowd levels are going to be at their predicted highest. So you can actually use the park ticket price calendar to determine ahead of time when Disney thinks their parks are going to be in their busiest seasons. If you look at the month of August, for example, you'll notice that park ticket prices are still rather steep toward the beginning of the month, but once you get to August 22nd, the ticket prices drop significantly to reflect that back to school season. In lots of circumstances, park tickets will also be relatively cheaper on Mondays to Thursdays versus when you purchase them on the weekends. It's not always the case, but historically speaking, weekends tend to bring on the biggest crowds. Tip number 3, check out our 50 ways to avoid the crowds video after this. Yep, 50 ways. We came up with this massive list of tricks and tips that help us to survive even the most packed out park days, because we're in the parks every single day. So hopefully these will help you and your family out too. These are the things we use on Christmas Day, on July 4th, and just really on those busier 3-day weekends like Memorial Day. These will be helpful, I promise. Next thing that is causing Disney fans to hit their breaking point is getting outpriced. Can't do a breaking point video without talking about the root of all evil here, those ever-increasing prices, right? Price increases and high crowds go hand in hand as a vicious cycle that seems never ending. Everybody's complaining about how high the prices are, but everybody's still going to the parks, which means Disney's got a reason to increase prices. Guests keep coming to the parks in droves and demand spikes. And when demand spikes, prices spike to keep up with demand. And then guests still pay those higher prices anyways and continue to flood the parks, which means even greater demand and greater price increases, and it's just a big mess. And that's more than frustrating for families who were just looking to take a nice vacation together and not have to take out a massive loan to do so. During the first quarter earnings call of this year, Bob Iger addressed the sky-high park prices for tickets, hotels, food, merchandise, and extra expenses. He stated, "It's clear that some of our pricing initiatives were alienating to consumers." Yeah, spot on. He also shared that although Disney has always prided themselves on being accessible to guests, these rising costs accomplished the opposite, something that Iger promised the company would address and strive to fix. In some minor ways, changes have recently been made to help cut down on costs, like returning free parking to the resort hotels for those guests and adding more features to Disney Genie Plus, like downloadable in-ride PhotoPass pictures taken throughout the day to help make the price easier to swallow. But we've also recently seen price changes that directly contradict what was promised during the earnings call. Recently, we saw Genie Plus prices reach an all-time high of $35 per day per person. And a wave of sneaky cost increases have popped up on menus and price tags throughout the Disney restaurants and gift shops. The price for a Dole Whip at Aloha Island Magic Kingdom went up from $4.99 to $5.99. For the first time, it's not under $5, my friends. And the cost of a prix-fixe dinner at Be Our Guest went from $62 to $67. Building a droid in Galaxy's Edge is now $119.99 when it used to be $99.99. Not to mention, it seems that value seasons, quote-unquote, are becoming less and less prominent nowadays, with only a sliver of time available before the start of the fall season where you can actually save on your tickets and hotels. So, what other ways are Iger and the Disney company planning on helping guests with these costs that just keep going up and up? Time is going to tell, I hope, but as we wait to hear about hopefully more miraculous money-saving news, here are some ways to help you save major money on your trip in the meantime. Ready? First, hold off on the extras where you can. Things like Genie Plus, park hoppers, major customizable souvenirs like those droids can be fun and useful, but they can also be a major money suck. Talk about these extra expenses with your group and find out when or even if you'd want to pay for them. And don't forget to cash out on the freebie souvenirs, things like park maps, celebration buttons, Kid Cup passports, and several other fun goodies that can be picked up during your visit for a whole $0.00. Much like our 50 ways to avoid the crowds video, we also have a 50 free things to do in Disney World video, so you can really fill your evening with major DFB tips tonight if you decide to check out both of those. Anyway, those free souvenirs can be used to make really fun scrapbooks or really fun memory books, or, and I think this is something someone should do, please make me a wallet out of a park map, because that would be really fun. Now, second thing, be smart about your dining. There's no need to book multiple big experience meals in a single day. Do your research and find out which quick service locations are going to work for your group, because believe me, there's a lot of those fast food spots where the food is excellent quality, it's a good atmosphere, it doesn't feel like you're eating at a fast food joint, and it will really scratch the same itch that a table service restaurant will for less money and less time. You can also check out which snacks can serve as a meal in and of themselves, and which table service locations have a brunch option that'll cover breakfast and lunch in a single sitting, and then you can basically just snack the rest of the day. The more money you can save on dining, the better. We talk more about this in our 2023 DFB Guide to Walt Disney World Dining, now up on the dfbstore.com website. Next, keep an eye out for those discounts. Again, that's why you follow us. We're going to talk about it in our latest news videos and in our newsletter if you are subscribed to that. The link is in the bio if you want to subscribe. Anyway, whether you're going to find a big promotion featured on that special offers, deals, and discounts page on the Disney World website, or you come across happy hour dining prices at Disney Springs restaurants, there are lots of ways for you to shave down the cost if you're willing to do a little digging. And like I said, you don't have to do this research by yourself. You can sign up for the free DFB newsletter. We're going to tell you about every discount we find, including food, flights, hotel, tickets, and more. But you can also reach out to our friends over at Small World Vacations for a free quote. Those are travel agents. They're full-time travel agents. They know their stuff. They can point you in a direction of the best Disney deals currently out there without you having to worry about lifting a finger to make it happen. Now, where they really come in handy is switching a current reservation to a discounted one. You can basically sit on the phone on hold for hours when you're trying to do that. So having a travel agent do that for you for free is a huge benefit, and I can highly recommend that. So like I said, newsletter sign up link, and I'll put the Small World Vacations link down in the description. You can check those out when you get the chance if you want to. Okay, another reason why people are hitting their breaking point for Disney. Planning is unbelievably complicated now. Disney World is not like your amusement park back home. You can't just wake up, roll out of bed, and go, you know what? I'd really like to ride me some of those rides today. Disney's more complex. The barrier to entry is much higher at this point. You gotta book your park pass reservations months in advance, figure out which days will fit your budget best based on the always changing, fluctuating surge prices of tickets and hotels and flights. You gotta get up real early to grab those advanced dining reservations for the hottest park restaurants like Cinderella's Royal Table and Space 220. You gotta learn about lightning lanes and virtual queues and boarding passes to make sure you get on all the rides you wanna ride. And that's just scratching the surface, and I know it's exhausting just talking about it. Disney doesn't necessarily want to overly complicate your trip, but with all the different reservations and restrictions in place nowadays, that's just how things have landed. Plus, with the amount of people that want to get into these parks, there's a lot of organization that needs to happen. So when it comes to park pass reservations in particular, Chairman of Disney Parks Experiences and Products, Josh D'Amaro, fully admitted one big problem guests have with the system, and that's, quote, you lose some of the serendipity surrounding your day. So he said Disney is trying to create ease while also making sure the guest experience is good. Some of the new rules have already been put in place when it comes to park pass reservations, like how you won't need to make reservations when you buy a one-day, one-park ticket, or how annual pass holders don't need park passes after 2 p.m., except if they're planning on visiting Magic Kingdom on the weekend. Yeah. But as more flexibility continues to be chiseled out by that Disney team for your upcoming trip, here are a few things you can incorporate into your itinerary planning in the meantime, if you're wanting to have some sort of semblance of plan as you go. Have fun, let the good times roll kind of vacation, that is. First, use the dining tips board on the My Disney Experience app to find last-minute dining reservations and walk-up wait lists. Not every restaurant is going to still have availability the day of your visit, but you're more than likely at least going to run across a few that'll take you in at the last second. Next, budget for more than you think you're going to need. Even if you're planning on visiting during Disney's down season when prices tend to drop down a bit, you just never know when you're going to need to splurge on a rideshare pickup or the souvenir you've just got to have right then and there, or an impromptu trip to Splitsville, Luxury Lanes, and Disney Springs. So having that extra safety net cash can help you feel less intimidated and more free to plan extra experiences on a whim. Finally, give yourself permission to leave some things up to chance. You may not be able to fly by the seat of your pants when it comes to park pass reservations and hotel stays, but that doesn't mean you can't reserve sometime in the afternoon during your park days to do something a little more unexpected, or even have an entire day of your vacation that is just wide open and you don't know what you're going to do. You might fill it with stuff that you didn't get to do when you were in the parks earlier that week. You might instead just stay by the pool all day and relax. Who knows? But leave like an empty day if you can and just see how that gets itself filled. Now, if you do have a little bit of time carved out in a park to be spontaneous, here are some ideas. At Magic Kingdom, you can hit up several indoor shows at once. They never have lines. Or maybe you can grab a Dole Whip and sprawl out on the hub grass. At Disney's Animal Kingdom, you may want to board the Wildlife Express, take the animation experience class over at Rafiki's Planet Watch, or sit in the Discovery River Amphitheater bleachers as you enjoy a Yeti sundae. When you're at Disney's Hollywood Studios, you can always take a tour through the Walt Disney Presents Self-Guided Museum, or you can slip into the Tune-In Lounge for a cocktail and good vibes. But I will say that place gets a little crowded, so I don't know, I might choose the Hollywood Brown Derby Lounge instead. And don't even get me started on Epcot. There are so many ways you can experience the World Showcase and all its 11 pavilions, from the side exhibits to the gift shops to the mini museums to the snack festival booths. Even play DuckTales World Showcase Adventure on the Play Disney Parks app. Just because several parts of your trip need to be figured out in advance doesn't mean all of it has to be. So allow yourself that extra time in the afternoon to explore the attractions that don't require you to wait in forever long lines or drop a ton of extra money. The next reason Disney fans are hitting their breaking point is that race against the clock. Stress, overwhelm, freakouts, they all seem to be part of a Disney vacation now for some reason. Now, I was the kid when we had timed fact tests in second grade. I would lay awake all night freaking out about them, so I'm not good when people want to time me on things. So imagine my stress factor when it comes to having to race to grab some of these highly sought after reservations and virtual queues and things like that sell out in literal seconds. So remember those popular restaurants I was talking about before? Advanced dining reservations will drop as early as 6 a.m. Eastern, sometimes a little even earlier, once you're 60 days out from your trip. And if you have the audacity to sleep in on that day, you may very well completely miss your shot at booking a table for Roundup Rodeo Barbecue in Hollywood Studios or Chef Mickey's at Disney's Contemporary Resort. And what about riding the newest park coasters like Tron in Magic Kingdom or Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind in Epcot? It's not good enough to get up early and try to hit these rides at Rope Drop because, well, a standby line is not currently available for either one. Instead, you've got to snag a virtual queue on your My Disney Experience app, which will drop twice each day, once at 7 a.m., once at 1 p.m. There's also an extra drop at 6 p.m. for deluxe resort guests who are planning on using the extended evening hours benefit to get 2 extra hours in the parks on select days. The boarding groups you'll receive during virtual queue drops are snatched up within seconds of releasing. So if you miss your window of opportunity, I'm talking even if you sneeze in the middle of trying to get those group numbers, you could be out of luck. Even Disney merchandise can become a Hunger Games-like scenario with those exclusive popcorn buckets and specialty Loungefly bags and limited annual passes that they had up for sale on April 20th. People are so afraid of the FOMO factor, and they'll pay whatever to get up as early as need be to avoid feeling it. Want to avoid all that extra FOMO pressure? I got you. When it comes to advanced dining reservations, keep in mind that yes, ADRs open up 60 days before your trip, but if you're staying at a Disney-owned resort, you can make reservations 60 days in advance, plus the length of your stay up to 10 days, giving you some more wiggle room to work with there. If you're okay with paying extras to avoid the virtual queue struggle with these new coasters, you can always jump into the My Disney Experience at 7 a.m. and instead pay for an individual lightning lane. Those still book up quickly, but not nearly as quickly as the free boarding passes, so if you sneeze this time, it's not going to blow the whole operation. Keep in mind that you'll only be able to book individual lightning lanes starting at 7 a.m. if you're staying as a guest in a Disney-owned resort. Otherwise, you won't be able to purchase them until the parks open, which means they could very well all be sold out by then. For limited time or exclusive items that you find people lusting after in the park, don't forget to check out the shopdisney.com website to see if they're available there too, because those items could very well just be chilling on those virtual shelves for a potentially discounted price. As far as the annual passes are concerned, that's a whole horse of a different color. You're just going to have to be in the know about when those future releases happen, since they seem to be rather sporadic at the moment. Again, signing up for our DFB newsletter can keep you in the loop about these sort of big releases. We will tell you they're coming. We will tell you it happens tomorrow. We will tell you, hey, don't forget, it's happening right now. So you don't have to learn about them when it's too late. And another reason that some old school Disney fans are hitting their breaking point is that the Disney dining plan won't come back. Not to call some of y'all out or anything, but I can't even begin to tell you how many questions and comments we receive every day asking us about the future of the Disney dining plan. And believe me, I wish I could fill you in on what's going on behind the scenes, but we're all pretty much in the dark with this one. For any of you who are new to the Disney scene, the Disney dining plan was this prepaid dining plan that guests could tack onto their vacation packages, and it worked really similarly to how a cruise line dining package works. You pay for your meals in advance, and you don't have to stress over paying for them at every single restaurant once you're on vacation. But ever since the pandemic happened in 2020 and the parks closed, the Disney dining plan disappeared. 3 years later, we're still planning trips without it, even though those little Disney dining plan icons are still on every single menu that comes out for the festivals, on the fast food kiosks, etc. Those Disney dining plan little DDP purple squares, they're on those menus, and that's very confusing for those of us who know that the DDP is not here. Anyway, Disney did promise that the Disney dining plan would return in some way, shape, or form back in 2021, but the company's been mum about it ever since. Instead, they've been doing these dining promo cards, which are basically gift cards that you can use at certain restaurants for those who booked certain vacation packages. But that promo has ended, and we're still finding ourselves to be dining planless. Now, we're all about keeping our ducks in a row when it comes to planning out our Disney dining budgets, which is why our 2023 DFB Guide to Walt Disney World Dining has immediate access to downloadable worksheets for planning your trip and giving you some sample one-day dining itineraries. So if you want to try that route, go ahead and purchase the book, use code YouTube for a discount. As far as the dining plan goes, we'll be sure to keep our ears to the ground, let you know just as soon as we hear any more news about its fate in the company. Now, we've seen movement on annual passes. We've seen movement on park passes. Let's see what happens with Disney Dining Plan. Here's to hoping we hear more ASAP. So another reason why folks are really hitting their breaking point is all of this construction. Construction's not a bad thing, but so many folks are sick of seeing it around their pricey resorts and in the parks. Construction means Disney's building and expanding and renovating to help improve experiences for future guest stays, but that doesn't help the guests who happen to be here right now. It can be disappointing to drop a whole bunch of money on an extravagant hotel room. Some of those cost $1,000 a night, even for a standard room, only to find that certain immersive areas that were promised to you aren't all that immersive when you arrive. Disney's pretty good at warning people about upcoming projects and expansions on their website, but we also like to keep you up to date too. So here are some of the most recent resort projects we've seen around the Disney scene and we're keeping an eye on all the time. Disney's Boardwalk Inn is in the process of updating all the hotel rooms with new furniture and decor. We've gotten a sneak peek at these rooms already and they look pretty cute. On top of that, the lobby of the hotel is expected to get an overall refresh soon too. The same goes for Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. Outside on the boardwalk itself, there's a new restaurant in progress. The Cake Bake Shop by Gwendolyn Rogers is under construction currently and set to open sometime in 2023. Now, what does that mean for those resorts? As they're renovating those rooms, you're going to run into a lot of construction. In Grand Floridian specifically, you will see a lot of construction visually as you walk through the resort because they're taking down one of those resort buildings at a time. So when you're walking through, you'll see at least one resort building with a bunch of scaffolding and a bunch of construction workers. Now, next door at Polynesian Village Resort, Disney tore down part of the resort, including the Spirit of Aloha dinner show, to make way for a new Disney Vacation Club tower. Now, it's currently under construction and already looks massive. Like, it doesn't look anything like the rest of the Polynesian, so I'm a little freaked out. But so far, we've only seen a little bit of the concept art for this new one. The area will be home to new rooms as well as new recreation and dining options by 2024. While all this construction is happening at the Polynesian Village Resort and Grand Floridian, the once convenient walkways between these two resorts, as well as the walkway from Grand Flo to Magic Kingdom, remain closed for all guests. Disney has stated on their website that they expect the Magic Kingdom pathway to reopen in late spring, so we're hoping that means fairly soon, since, yeah, I'd definitely say we're well into late spring now. All-Star Sports is finally receiving some much-needed room upgrades. The refurbishments are in progress currently, but should be completed later on this year. And at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground, fans must say goodbye to Trails End Restaurant, a table service spot that for now serves comfort food classics by the Heatfuls. Soon it's going to be closing and converted into a marketplace-style quick service restaurant, so maybe sort of a food court-ish kind of vibe. Though Disney hasn't given us a for sure closing date for Trails End, the website shows hours through May 7th, 2023. at the point of this voiceover. Again, construction, not a bad thing, but cranes and mounds of dirt and the sound of distant drilling can be quite the ambiance killer at times, especially over there at the Polynesian where you're supposed to be, like in this zen, like Hawaiian vibe. So it's best to know which hotels have updates going on so you don't have to be thrown off by the sudden work zone reveals. Always check the resort's main page on the Disney World website to track down the latest announcements and closures ahead of time. Again, join our newsletter. We've got all that information in there too. But if you just want to look at the website, Disney's got these little orange warnings at the top of their pages that'll tell you what's under construction and when. And ride breakdowns. Okay, let's say you did it. You bit the bullet, you paid for the Lightning Lane access, or maybe you got up at the crack of dawn to get ready to hit up the park for early theme park entry, which will grant you 30 minutes extra time in the parks before they open up to non-Disney hotel guests. And yet here you are, getting ready to hit up the ride you're most looking forward to, and it's broken. Unfortunately, ride breakdowns happen more often than you may realize, especially for the new trackless rides like Remy's Ratatouille Adventure in Epcot, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in Hollywood Studios, and the ever-finicky, bless its heart, Rise of the Resistance. Trackless dark rides tend to break down seemingly more often because of their highly reactive array of sensors. These new trackless systems move swiftly and can dart around in a seemingly random maneuver, and since there aren't any limits on the ride vehicles, each ride on the attraction can be different, which makes it super cool, but if anything were to disturb those sensors, even something small that we might not be able to see, or even Wi-Fi, the whole ride will perform an emergency stop to keep guests safe. And that's great. We don't want to sacrifice safety by any means. But because cast members have to make sure everything's par for the course before giving the green light for these to go back online, trackless rides see more than their fair share of downtime throughout the year. The bigger the technology, the bigger the annoyance. And Rise of the Resistance has so many pieces and parts in their attraction that if anything were to go wrong other than the trackless part, it could still lead to a total system shutdown. Now, if you're on the ride in the middle of a complete shutdown, whether it be for a trackless attraction or any other Disney ride experience, since it can happen to any ride, to be honest, you'll more than likely receive a Lightning Lane pass to return and re-ride that attraction later on in the day or choose a different attraction if you'd rather. Sometimes these passes are also given to guests who are about to board the attraction too. But keep in mind that this free Lightning Lane pass is not guaranteed, even if you're in a ride vehicle when it breaks down. If you're on the ride when it breaks down and you don't receive a redemption pass, it's not because the cast members don't love you or don't know what they're doing. There are many different factors that influence these decisions, so please note that they do sympathize with your experience, but just might not be able to help you out with the line-skipping freebies depending on the time of day, the length of the queue, and overall details about the technical difficulties. And also remember, you can always go talk to a guest service representative to see if you can make things right. If you're in line when a ride breaks down, you've got two choices. This is literally the worst. This is Schrodinger's line. You can either A, wait out the closure in line if you have the time because the ride could reopen within an hour or even sooner, and you don't want to lose your place in the queue, or B, you may just have to cut your losses and head out. This is super uplifting, right? But it's true, staying in line might not be worth your time if there are other things you really want to do around the park. And again, like I said, Schrodinger's queue, it's the worst. You don't know which direction it's gonna go, and you have to make a choice. And a ride could take hours before it reopens, or it may not even reopen that day at all. You may want to ask a nearby cast member for advice just to check on the status of things. More than likely, they're not going to be able to give you any specific details or time frames, but they may at least be able to tell you if a ride will quickly be back online or if it's going to be more of an extensive fix. If you do leave the line, your best chance at still getting on the ride without wasting any more time in the park is to hop in line closer to park closing time. Cast members will let you stay in line and go on the attraction even after the park closes, and most of the time the rides have much shorter waits in the evenings. But be warned, if you get in line just before park closing, you do run the risk of the ride breaking down again, which means you won't have the option to return later on because that's the end of the day. And that can be a major bummer. All in all, if a ride does break down, keep your eye on the My Disney Experience app throughout the day so you can see if and when it goes back online. Now, if you're lucky enough to be near an attraction right when it reopens after a temporary breakdown, those are awesome times because there's not going to be any line, everyone will have left, and you get to basically breeze right on super quickly. Breakdowns don't always have that happy of an ending, but when they do work in your favor, it's the best feeling ever. Now, Disney World may not be the picture-perfect place you once remembered as a kid, but knowing how to plan ahead for these potentially major stress factors can still keep you from completely pulling away from the parks for good, if that's what you want to do. So keep checking back here. We're going to keep on giving you our latest tips and tricks that we come across as we hit up the parks every single day, that we keep making tons of mistakes and trying to figure out how to make the parks fit our budgets and our time frames and our special diets and the whims of our toddlers. You know, that's why we're here. We're in the parks every day to help make sure you're having the best trip you possibly can. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.